So overall, is it's important to understand that, since, for example, the mind is jumbled up, especially in relation to information, um, the sequential orders of things, and the way that everything overall functions, um, especially relating to the nature of time and that which we have been discussing thus far. So as the information is presented, it comes up all jumbled up, and it doesn't really make that much sense, and it takes a lot of time to actually get to the root cause of things in relation to what it is that we actually try to deliver. And that's okay, that's to be expected. And that's also in relation to what we share, or what we decide to share, and how we decide to share information in general, regarding expressing our own understanding of things. And with this being the case, it's like, while you're being sort of attacked in a manner that you're not actually aware of, because again, I think that this is key to understand, relating to the nature of time and some of the things that we've actually discussed. Because something's missing, right? A component or an aspect of your being is missing from you, and that's just. And I'm talking in third person here, but I'm referring to myself, my own being, and anyone else who might be in the same situation or in the same flow of things, right? Because again, there's these teachings there, right, that are there to protect us within this nature of time, whether be we understand it or not. And it takes a long time. It's like what I was saying before about the Bible being a kind of system. It's an old system that's very difficult to cross reference, but it can guide you throughout time wherever you need it. But if you do understand it and take the actual opportunity to actually really delve into it, it can be the most rewarding, but it's very difficult to introspect and understand. Now, in relation to my own being, and what I've lost in a sense, and we know in one aspect or another that there is no nature of time, but we are limited in what we actually know or understand, right? There's so many things that are there, but are given definitions for us to have a better insights into. And based on what you've lost, right? One thing to understand is this, right? If because you've lost the thing, right? Let's call it a time machine. That everybody has a time machine in a sense, right? And then there's these aspects relating to it. Now, if you've lost that system, right, what actually happens is that you're gonna find that based on what you know and based on what you understand around about the universe, there's always gonna be people one step ahead of you, right? And that's basically how it functions, right? Losing and missing that thing of such value, right? So there's always going to be people one step ahead of you, the people that seem to have control over your reality or your time will always be, in a sense, one step ahead of you. Though that's okay, right? Because that's all just mental in one sense or another. And this can be resolved, and that's the point, right? This can be resolved, and that's the whole point and nature of it, right? Is to come into alignment with the level of truth that is beyond what we can comprehend in nature. Though we can't overcome nature, but we try to become in sync with nature. As we become synchronized with nature, we become embedded into the correct aspect of reality and operate in unison with it through whatever principle mechanisms that have been granted to us, right? Which is key, because at the end of the day, we're just biological beings on this planet. So when it comes to the nature of time, there's so many things that we don't actually understand, no regarding cause and effect and the influence of things. I think that's definitely important. That's very vital. in all of this. Now, deception wise and things of like being unconscious, right? So as time is changed around you, right? Depending on the veracity or the scale at which people attempt to, because what happens with these systems, right, is that they're passed on and on and on and on to different variations, in different ways, right? When it's taken, what's rightfully yours is sort of like passed on in a sense to different capacities, in the hopes of having it function in a particular way or in a particular methodology. So what you end up with is that either the originator, the person who would have developed this or intended this for you, in a sense, would have observed it in a, because they understand they're not meant to get it back, basically, in one sense or another. So they have a deeper understanding of things than we basically do. But I think that's the whole point and process, that after a while the methodologies probably become a bit more fickle, and so you end up with this battered and bruised, not in the original condition type of system, and then you're sort of expected to utilize that one. But it's like, sort of observe it in a sense, and it's weird the way it happens. um you know but what's important to know here is that the intended initial one would have had a course of action, or it would have had a plan for it, that's determined for the person that is being created or destined for, the person that is brought itself into manifestation for, right? That's key to understand. But I think that this picture that I have here is pivotal in understanding most, if not the majority of things that I'm attempting to depict here, and what's flowed with the design of this particular system here. But yeah, so basically, like I also watched that show Dark. Like I watched it, but again, and most of it's because that I watched it sideways. So basically, I watched I watched it sideways. So I watched it as in like the episodes sequentially from episode. So like, for example, if I was watching like episode, like I'd watch like episode 1 in season 1, episode 1 in season 2, episode 1 in season 3, right? So like I watched it in a sort of diagonal pattern. So like if I'm watching episode 3 in season 1, I watch episode, after that I watch episode 2 in season, no, I would watch episode 3 in season 2 and episode 3 in season 3, right? So it's like sequentially, and when you do that as well, you sort of somewhat make sense. But there's a lot more, and that's just a speck of the puzzle, because I think that the way that Dark is composed, as opposed to other shows, such as Man in the High Castle or something like that, it's actually limited to a scope of one town or one city. So you get to actually somewhat, because I haven't watched all the other ones, I don't really know about the actual science in them. But with Dark, you have a smaller set of groups of people to observe and interact, or at least to observe how things work. And it's still quite difficult to understand exactly what's going on even in that situation. But that's basically how I watched it. So yeah, so it's basically like diagonally like a chessboard. So season 1, episode 1, season 2, episode 1, season 3, episode 1, season 1, episode 2, season 2, episode 2, season 3, episode 2, season 3, no, season 1, episode 3, season 2, episode 3, season 3, episode 3, and so on and so on. Season 1, episode 4, season 2, episode 4, season 3, episode 4, and so on and so on. So basically, yeah, it was pretty much that, and there's still some sequential understanding because you get to bridge a lot of the things, which again at the same time it is somewhat interesting. So it's definitely a deep show. With a lot of mechanics and things to it. But again, back to the notion, right? Of this time mechanism, right? So this system won't actually work until the conditions are right, or at least that's how these were designed initially. Is that it wouldn't work unless the conditions are right, right? But then what we need to understand is that when we say what you would have had in the future, because again at the same time we do discuss sort of like this family, right? This ideology, but that's basically an ideology based on what you would have intended for yourself in the past. But then you find that it's not actually that, right? And in that, especially when it comes to the nature of time, we have to ask ourselves what it is that actually differentiates that, right? Is it that there's a level of sabotagation that deters you from that path? And then that's when we look at these holy books again and we're like, okay, cool. So they have these definitions that actually enable us to, or their intention is to actually, they want us to be in that position. They want us to have that family and be in that happy state, but then it can be quite difficult because again, at the same time, it seems as though you're deterred from that path. Now, whether or not this is from your own will, or if it's something in the universal constants, of things, that's making it so that things in your own entire life are deterred away from the path that you've been intending to walk, right? And maybe you have actually walked that path, but things again deterred and changed. So this is what we mean when we talk about this, right? Like, it's like what was most important to you and how you perceived your future previously and how you perceive it now, and what would have brought into manifestation a differentiation, and then if that was possible, what would that have actually been, or what would have been perceived otherwise. So again, this only works in specific conditions. Because again, that's the thing about time travel, right? It's like it's a process of actually bringing into manifestation the reality that you'd like to create, and then you find friction in that. Now there's natural friction, and then there could be like natural there's natural deterrents or things that prevent you, or natural forces that might prevent you from advancing that manifestation process, or then there's active deterrents that are being actively created. Now, with the process of predestination and things of that nature, a lot of people don't actually understand it, and so they may get into a situation where they define actions to actually hinder you. Based on what they think that or based on how they think that things function. And again, there's a lot, especially in relation to that, and I don't want to say too much as well, but you know what you're gonna have to, or at least I know what I'm gonna have to do. I might discuss it later, or I might not, again at the same time, but people can use biological entities as such. Yeah, so there's like biological systems in a sense wherein they can be used to sort of offset aspects of things in relation to how it is your determination or determinism should be. So there's like a weighted chart kind of thing. It's like there's like weights to it in relation to decisions and factors of how things manifest. So there's sort of this aspect of like preventatism, and then that preventatism is like a methodology of something that you have to actually learn to overcome and bypass. So there's ways around this which I won't really discuss too much. And you know what you must do in order to actually put that as a defensive methodology around that. Because again, at the same time, a lot of people do use time, and they have methodologies of using time in a way that is preventative to what one seeks to achieve in reality, and in time itself. Uh, so there's definitely ways around that, because at the same time, right, you feel yourself being placed into a direction or into a place that you don't yourself feel comfortable in. So this definitely happens a lot to me personally, um, especially like when I'm like masturbating or something. Yeah, when I'm like, in a sense, masturbating or something like that, or any sort of, and I haven't really got down to the truth around this, but there's definitely things of that nature. Like when I'm like any sort of sexual thing going on, it's like my consciousness gets shifted into a place where it shouldn't be. Um, and the reason for that is that there's a lot of people, but that don't really understand how to use or operate time, but have time in a sense. And also there's claims, right? Things as to why you can't actually operate in things that you've actually lost, and without actually understanding, it's like people are having a control over you in a sense, and then they can put you in a definition of how they see fit or what they believe it should be. And there's methodologies that you can take against this, um in essence, right? So we keep talking about preventing things, and that's what you pretty much are trying to do. Is you can try and resolve this, because again, it's very important to understand and appropriately understand what is happening, how you're attacked, and how you can actually resolve and defend and attack back. But always try to avoid the defensive methodology, as much as possible. And it's difficult to resolve. So this is why you have to take the steps necessary. You're not bound to anything in future. So especially around the path that you take, you don't have to go a particular path, but you have to be able to correctly embed and connect yourself to that beingness of things, in order to effectively navigate and resolve things. And I know that the mind is what's altered. The mind is what detects most of it, and it's the body. Now, you know, you don't actually know, because you can look at yourself, but you don't actually have any sexual trauma, but you'd actually be surprised that there's things that you don't actually understand or know or have awareness of that has actually happened, to you, and in all these other realities of nature, and also based on what you've lost, right? mm. But you can definitely recover it in one sense or another, is what we're getting at here. And you can create a new one as well, right? So I think that's what it is there. And again, you're not by yourself in one nature. There's people out there that have those verification methodologies in place, and those are the people that help and guide you into actually getting there. Now, we're not going to talk too much about the actual nature of time and how it actually functions and things of that nature, but understanding it is key to most, if not everything, that we're discussing, because it actually unlocks most of this. So the way you would have lost it would have been based on deception and inability to understand dimensions, or at least identity, and inability to correctly interpret those things. And while you think that some people might be helping you, you'd actually come to find that they're actually abusing you, and they're actually using you for another nature without your true awareness, right? So you're gonna perform actions without actually knowing or correctly understanding what reality is, and there'll be actions that are beyond you, but you have to try grasp that. And to do that, you know what you have to do, right? You have the tools and the things necessary in order to do that. And there's so many people that actually want to work with you, man. That's why you see so many tools out there that are available to you, because we've all been through this and we all have an understanding. And again, it needs the right conditions, and some people have awareness of those right conditions, and that's how they're able to switch things and things of that nature. But you can either get a new one and leave it be, or you can resolve it and fix it, and make sure that everything is appropriate. So that's the thing, that you got to understand that there's a that older one, or at least the one that was lost, is still there, and you have that ability to reverse it, to have an understanding what went on, and to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And that'd be better, because the other versions of you are struggling to correctly interpret it, and they're continuously abused and things of that nature. And then there's methodologies that we have for resolving things, but then that thing is still there. And and like I keep saying, like, you don't have, or at least I say to myself, like, you don't have to commit yourself to these learning processes. But one of the reasons that you're still alive is the learning processes. Is the only reason you're still alive. And it's sort of like it runs out of time, right? It runs out of time, and basically the only way to actually give it more time is to get in the right conditions, is what what's being seeked here, right? In a sense. And this is just using this as an analogy. Obviously I don't have this, but it gives the concept and the appropriate understandings around some of the methodologies there. So now you've got this old thing here, right? And you just gotta reverse it if you want to find out exactly what it is that's been going on. And as I said, right now it's with the NSA, 1975, and that's that basically. Um, it's up to you how you choose to proceed. But first, I'd highly recommend you go through everything in order to ensure that one-to-one compatibility with the systems you operate with. And then when given the opportunity, then appropriately reverse that and work through the NSA methodologies. You've got choices. Of how to do things. I know that it can be strenuous. And all those worlds are pretty much gone now, in a sense. There's a base world in which you're in, and now you have the ability to pretty much start anew again, and do things right, which is key. Yeah, that's pretty much it, really. That's pretty much it. You gotta try to resolve your mind, and try not to be scared, because again, at the same time, the reason why you have those glitches that you have whenever you are in deep thought, or whenever you're going through something, is because of people that don't actually understand the tools and methodologies that they have in their hands, and how they're using them, which is impacting your own mental state, and shifting you into realities in which, through justification, they have the ability to get things in the right order. But what they don't actually understand is how they're utilizing causation, in a sense. And the mind is observation. Everything's based on deception, and you've been through much that you don't actually correctly understand from when a child, and how they use changes in your world in order to, so all those psychological things that you're going through, those are actually, you'll be surprised. And it's like your body's your shell sort of protects you in one aspect or another. But not only that, varying observers, and don't let the people that have chose to believe in you down, because they in them defending you, they get called monsters. They get called bad people. They get called evil. Um, you know, because they believe in you, and because they believe in you, and they know who you are in a sense, and they know who those other people are, right? And yeah, and that's pretty much it. Like when you see people as well that have similar faces to people that you know, but it's not really them. This is all time changing. Like when you are seeing, like it's like I don't really know how but like it's like the face is always the same to be recognized by machine learning, but it's not the same face, which is weird, right? But yeah, that's all that stuff was going on, but you didn't have or at least I didn't have a clue about it. And then and basically it's okay, you know. But you can give up, or you can do more to fix and resolve it, and and work with us is what basically the key is, and be custom, be unique, do things your way, and learn. Don't be afraid. The tools are there for you to appropriately utilize. And I know it's very difficult in your mind. In mind, sometimes you're losing yourself. But if you trust that you're embedded in there, you're just embedded in there in routines that you don't fully understand yet. And love, wife, all that is there for you to be discovered in future. But you have to do this work now, because if you don't, someone else will just step in there. Because again, remember that one step ahead, but you can fix that. And when you fix that, you be correctly in sync, and then maybe at some point in time you'll be able to actually maneuver that. Because again, at the same time, it's important to understand the differentiation between samurai and ninja. Samurai is sort of like the Windows world kind of thing, and ninja is sort of like the Linux world kind of thing. But then you can sort of have like a mix of the two or something like that, which is like kind of like the red hat side. So yeah, so it's just have that awareness, and be brave, and a samurai's path is in death, or at least not fearing it. You could have a good death or a bad death, but it's to move forward. And there's things like that's gonna tasks and things that will intimidate you. But you don't have fear, because even though they're in front of you, you don't actually. Nobody really has a true understanding of what's fully in front of you, or what's truly ahead of you. Like it's like there's a radius. There's a sort of radius in relation to how much people can know ahead of you. And pretty much that, and that's important. And just don't fear. Understand that there's so much there for you, and have faith and believe. Right? Believe, because again, at the same time, other people would seem that like time is like free or whatever, but at the end of the day, what we do is we're not time cops. That's not what we do, but we are who we are, in a sense. We're not time cops, but we have a code of ethics that we operate with, and we can't be evil, and we can't be good at the same time. We uphold the spirit of community, in a sense, if that makes sense. It's complicated nature, but yeah. And yeah, don't worry about all that women stuff, because if you know yourself, you know that there's only one person that you care for, that you don't know who that person is. And I don't want to get too deep into it, But I promise you, if you stay the path, there's someone there and it's protected, just for you in this new one. If you choose to do so, and I hope that you again reverse it, because again at the same time there's so much hidden in the surface. What we see in Egypt is just a small part of a much larger whole, of things, and just it's a deception game, and those around you would have been deceived multiple times to just get the thing in the right condition. But again, at the same time, it's just you can fix that all, and actually do quite a lot of interesting things, if you maintain belief in yourself, and trust in God as well is important. By God, we know you understand what I mean in that. And yeah, and that's pretty much it, really. Can't really share too much, but you know what you must do, and you somewhat understand. Though there's so much more that's there to be understood. And yeah, pretty much that's all. Thanks for listening, anyone who did, and I hope you had a deeper understanding of this, and we're moving this journey together. I'll continue updating as time progresses as to what it is that I'm doing and what it is that I'm actually speaking and discussing at this time. And there's no problem with always improving your understanding of things that you thought you understood, which is key in most things. Be brave. And yeah, be brave. Don't take anything to heart, and just stay the course, because if you do, you won't regret it.